There are a couple of contenders on this list that are not in the top 10. Um, the Browns, the Colts, the Texans, the Falcons, the Packers, and the Bills.
Yeah.
Out of those contenders, which are you most surprised about not being in the top 10? And which are you most surprised about being even listed as possible contenders?
So I mean, the biggest name on there is Buffalo, right? Like obviously, they've had a mini fall from grace, and then they're now standing at 6-6. So I'm sure their fan base thinks that the sky is falling up there in Orchard Park. So they have a lot of cause for concern up there, and a lot of talks of like, is the window closing? What's going to happen with Josh Allen? Is the relationship good with Stephon Diggs? So yeah, they have a lot of questions that they need to answer up there in Buffalo. So although they're a contender on paper right now because of where their record's at, they have some questions that need to be answered before they make a potential postseason run. But I mean, the Atlanta Falcons still being in it at this juncture is wild to me. Arthur Smith, has found a way to keep that team afloat. And once again, I don't think they're going to make any type of run, but the fact that they're still in contention in week 13 says a lot about what they have going on down there. I do think that they have some talent on that team, obviously, because you can't still be in it without talent. But yeah, Falcons by far the biggest surprise in my opinion on there. You may say otherwise, which is fine. Makes for good content. But yeah,
But they should
Bills
be
and Falcons
better.
for sure.
They should be
Who should be
better though,
better?
right? The Falcons, like
Buffalo?
no, those no, fuck Buffalo. We'll talk about them in a second. But
Yeah. No.
the Falcons with just all the talent that they have on offense, right?
Yep.
Bijan Robinson, you had Drake London, you got Kyle Pitts, you have a backup tight end, John Smith, who we're familiar with here in New England, that is
Right.
actually a serviceable tight end, a pretty good offensive line. They just
Right.
they don't have a quarterback. They have Desmond Ritter, who they started for the first 10 games or 11 games of the season or whatever the hell it was.
Hmm.
And then they go back. Then they actually go and they start playing their guy Taylor Heineke that they paid probably too much for to
Right.
steal him away from the Commanders. And they should be better. Like we're sitting here, they're 5-6, and you just that team should be 7-4, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Yeah.
And the only reason that I think Bobby has them listed as the contenders is the fact that they are undefeated in their division. The 3
Yeah.
in the division.
Yeah. I
So
mean, yeah. I mean, the NFC South is always a high turnover division. With the exception of when Brady was in these last 2 years, but it was the Saints. But then sometimes it might be the Bucks that win. Sometimes it was Carolina that win. So that team that division always flip flops. So it's not a shocker that the team was the quote unquote worst the year before turns around and makes it or becomes the best in the division. So that's just been a staple of that division. So that's not a shocker there. They need to keep running the ball more. Obviously, everyone knows how I feel about Kyle Pitts because I am a Gators fan. So I want to see him become the guy that we saw in Florida and then some. Once again, the dude is he could be Shannon Sharp 2.0 in the right system. Really good.
right.
And I don't think that's far fetched to say. That talent is there. And um, for whatever reason, it hasn't worked under Arthur Smith's tutelage, but I'm looking for him eventually to be elsewhere to showcase what he can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as Buffalo goes, I'll just leave it at this. After what happened in the AFC title game against Patrick Mahomes, the or was that the end? Was that the divisional game a couple years back? It was one of the two. I think it was a divisional game. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think Buffalo. Yeah,
it was either divisional. It was just, yeah, no,
yeah,
Buffalo. Yeah, yeah, divisional. Yep.
yeah. So the NFL changed the overtime rules to make sure that
Hmm.
just because Josh Allen and what happened in that 16 or 24-second uh, uh, game happened, and now Josh Allen is 0-6 in overtime since. Like
Right.
he ain't clutch. I don't, and I think that this is going to sound unfair, even though he believes the offense runs through him and he has to make every single play. What we've learned throughout his entire career so far is that in that cutting time, he gets smaller.
Yep.
He can't do it, and there are others like Jalen Hurts that rise to the occasion. Patrick
Yep.
Mahomes that rise to Joe Burrow that rise to the occasion.
Yep.
Um, I don't, because we're guests, I don't think that we have the ability to cross people off the list, but I do have from an inside source to keep with the tradition going and to
Right.
cut. We can officially, as we are recording the show on Wednesday, November 29th, officially remove the Bengals from contention and from the power rankings. We're banishing them.
Mm,
That's
wow.
from Bob. That's from Bobby. I think the Joe Burrow
I get it
injury.
though. It sucks, but I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, the Joe Burrow injury in and of itself did it, and then you saw the ramifications of that injury when they go out and they lose a stinker to the Steelers 16-10 last week. Their
Right.
offense is putrid without Joe, and I just
Right.
that division's
Right.
also too good for that team to win it.
Right.
Um, but let's get into the power rankings, and I think one of the things that DK and the real PK Bob Kelly did last week is they started talking a little bit about the rankings and then how they would fare. What's their path to a Super Bowl, to their path to a championship,
Mhm.
right?